So I did about 77 Delirium maps. Honestly, my goal was to get to 100, but the results were pretty stagnant, and then to get to the next tower, and then to load up the next set of Delirium maps, and then it really, I'm not sick of mapping, I just hated that fog at that point. And while it felt really good to get the loot at the end, and the exalts per hour weren't that bad, I'm just gonna tell you my results. So I had a couple of different setups for this. This is one that I found that I didn't like very much, mostly because of this, the 4-second pause on timer with 50% extra reward progress. I was getting maybe about one result higher, so an average from 5 to maybe an average of 6, and then maybe getting towards the reward number 7 sometimes. But it felt horrible having to take this, and if I didn't take this and took maybe this one, I found that the map was still closing a bit too fast, so I didn't like changing it too much, so I ended up mostly going for this type of setup was the one I found the best. And that just increased the amount of splinters I found per map. This is what I think would probably suit just farming Delirium infused maps more, rather than like the Delirium maps that I was doing. However, I also feel that having this for the extra 50% reward progress, it really doesn't add a lot. Like going from a consistent of about 5 reward to 6 reward didn't really change the amount of exalts I was farming, whereas having more mirrors gave me more splinters, and I honestly don't really know what this one does. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what this additional reward type is. I didn't feel like I was getting any more splinters, I didn't feel like I was getting any more. It did sound like the best option, just because I really didn't like this pause. It being slower also didn't really suit me, and I didn't want it to be any faster, so I ended up using this the most. So this is how I was keeping track of all of my Delirium rewards. I kept track of the reward counter, so over here on the left, this is just the maps, how many maps it took. These are your distilled emotions you get from running the Delirium themselves. I never actually got Suffering or Isolation, and I only got 1 Fear. So I don't know the odds of these, but the rest were pretty consistent for me getting. Maybe if I was getting 7 rewards consistently more, because I think I only got this one at 7 once or maybe twice. You'd probably get a little bit more of these. Same thing with splinters, and then I added in some notes here if they were a double breach map or a breach. I think I started putting them about here. I eventually started recording what map they were on so you could see which was the best maps to run Delirium on. I found the best ones were pretty much at odds with the breach maps. It's the ones where it's just like a straight line, you're running through them. Those are the best types for Delirium, because then you get to hit all of the Delirium mirrors through it. And then eventually I started also recording the amount of time it took per map, so if you had similar clear time to me, you can expect similar results. That's why I didn't record them initially, because I thought that everyone's going to have different clear time, so it might not be worth it. But so these are just my results. Over here on the right side, this is the map setup I have for them, for each of these. So 0 to 18, I believe, this is the setup I was using. Then I started swapping them around because I wasn't really loving this setup. I'll probably stop the video right here just to show you an exact why I hated this setup in particular. Then I started testing it around. I really didn't like this setup either. I got 4 splinters and thought to myself, no, this isn't it. Then I tried this setup here. I got 5 splinters and I ran this for a while just to see, hey look, maybe it was just that one time. So it was that one time. It wasn't a bad setup. I honestly didn't mind it too much. It felt okay, but at the same time I was still only getting 5 or 6, more so 6 and 5s in these setups for the reward counter, so it didn't really feel like this 50% increase in the amount of reward counter gained was actually adding a whole lot more value to my experience running the map. And then the extra, I think 20% extra time, like the timer going faster, because this one's 50 and this one's about 20, so maybe 30%. It didn't feel as nice running. I eventually settled on this setup, which I like the most. I wasn't touching the reward timer at all, or the delirium timer. It felt really nice. I think, yeah, this is how I ran most of my maps. I think it might be the best splinter setup though. Now let's go through the results because I covered that stuff before. Results wise, I just calculate, these are all just sums of however many I had before in each section. As you can see here, this is sphere. The most you'd earn is from your splinter sales. That's why I thought splinters would probably be the best. Maybe if you can get consistently 7 or 8 for the reward counter, or 7. I'm not sure if you could ever get to 8. This would probably be better because these two are worth the most, and literally I only got this one time. That was towards the end when I just decided I wanted to film some of me going through Delirium just to add to this if I maybe wanted it. So looking at this stuff, you're looking at about, well, total up I earned about 1,421 exalts. These are just the market prices for each of these, and then I just times the two numbers by each other. Average time per map is just an average of all the times. Average exalts per map is just this over 77. This one's a little bit different because, well, 3.28 is 3 minutes and 28 seconds how long I took for the map. That's roughly 3:30, so I didn't think that would matter too much. So I'm running about 17 maps an hour, and this is just average maps, average exalts per map times average maps per hour. So I was getting about 316 exalts per hour, and that at 114 exalts per div is about 2.7 divs per hour. And I did this for a little over 3 hours total just inside the maps. Now this time doesn't include any time going towards the maps, or if I did a breach and then I finished the whole map, I usually just picked up all the breach stuff after, and I'd stop the timer just to go through it. So this is just me clearing out the whole map, going through all the delirium stuff, and then after I finished the map or stopped farming delirium mirrors, and then I'd stop the timer. This also doesn't include the amount of exalts I found or currency I found just within the map that had nothing to do with delirium, so this is purely just a delirium counter. So the question of are deliriums really worth it? Yes, but are they the best farm? Probably not. I'd say I was earning more just farming Delirium infused breach maps and going through those. Delirium is nicer that it drops everything at the end, so less picking up. It's more stressful though, and keeping track of the timer and where you can go on the map at times is very, well, it gets irritating. So would not recommend solely focusing on Delirium. Is it a good farm? Yes. Should you be doing it exclusively? Probably not.